Latest of our Monday night special reports, Alan Clark looks at the battle of the airwaves.
The battle for listeners in the southeast has never been fiercer. But is radio a license to print money or merely IOUs? Surveys last year showed a fall in radio listening. The recession's made commercial investors nervous and money's tight at the BBC. Southend's commercial station is an exception. They claim an audience of more than 1 million and reported profits of £200,000 in their first year. News and advice programmes aren't overlooked, but the accent's firmly on pop. DJ Timbo Lloyd, who used to be a Butlins redcoat, has just been promoted from late night to lunchtime.
It's me, Timbo, till 2 o'clock. With so many funs and frolics, we're going to have an absolutely lovely time.
Detectives hunting the killer of a Lancashire man have switched their investigations to Essex, following the discovery of the man's car in a Dagenham car park.
Despite a promising start, Essex Radio haven't escaped a drop in their audience.
I would have thought it was accounted for by an increase in the amount of television alternatives that are available. I mean, we mustn't overlook TVAM. That's pulling an audience of, what, 1 million people, away from perhaps a peak time for radio, which is breakfast. I think, too, that so far as local radio is concerned, it tends to be a medium of immediacy, and it also tends, to some extent, to be involved with problems. And so if you get a lot of snow, if you get a Falklands War, if you get a long industrial dispute, people turn more to the local radio station.
Across the estuary, BBC Radio Kent in Chatham are nearing the end of 14 years as the county's only local radio service. Soon, they'll face competition from 2 commercial stations. The BBC can't afford the IBA policy of a station in every major town. Instead, they're to introduce regional studios in Canterbury and Folkestone and improve reception in the east of the county.
A lot of calls this morning about National Health Service, notably from people living in the Medway area, which, as we said, is the subject of the debate, in the German debate in the House of Commons last Friday.
It's 12 o'clock. This is Michael Bath. ESABS of Gillingham is to shed 3/4 of its workforce at a cost of 130 jobs.
Our first priority, of course, is information. Public service information, the kind of thing that our listeners want. Whereas commercial radio, their first priority seems to be to get the maximum audience regardless.
You've had the region to yourselves for a long, long time now, but by the end of this year, you'll be facing competition from 2 other ILR stations, not to mention the pirate radios. How are you going to face up to that new competition?
Well, so far we have been the only local radio station in the county, but actually this area already is the most highly competitive radio area in the country. I've counted something like 13 stations right now, and as you say, 2 ILR stations are coming up in the near future.
Do you think either the pirate station or the forthcoming ILR stations will take away any of your audience?
Oh, I'm sure that as one has more radio stations, the cake remains the same, if you like, so the potential for each station to achieve a large slice, if I can put it that way, is reduced. But I'm sure that since we were first in Kent, we're going to remain that way.
Today, as you've just heard in the 12 o'clock news, there's been a new call for a channel tunnel. It comes from a group of French and British banks who have reported that the building of the tunnel to carry trains should go ahead as soon as possible. It's been announced by health officials in Maidstone that most of the hospital backup services in that district will be privatised.
This is all that's left of the Mi Amigo, home of the first pirate radio station, after she went down in a force 9 gale. Offshore broadcasting started 20 years ago and paved the way for today's local radio. But the pirates aren't sunk yet. A new challenge to both the BBC and the commercial stations is being mounted here in international waters off the Essex coast. The pirate radio ship Caroline dropped anchor here in September, and already they're claiming an audience of 10 million in Britain and Europe.
From a point at sea to the circles in your mind, this is the new Radio Caroline.
It cost Caroline's American backers, they won't say who, £1 million to relaunch the pop pirate on the deep-sea trawler Ross Revenge. With only 12 people on board and no rent or rates to pay, running costs are low, around £5,000 a week. The government can't stop Caroline because she's in international waters. The 1967 Marine Offences Act made it an offence to supply goods to a pirate ship. It was also an offence to advertise. Caroline have got round the law by taking American sponsors and servicing the ship from Spain. The Caroline spokesman refused to be identified.
You and the Kinks and a thing entitled Come Dancing, all on 319 with love, peace and good music. This is Radio Caroline.
One of the complaints against you is that you're not paying any royalties, are you?
Well, that's... At the moment we're not, no, but I mean this is, when we get underway, I mean that will be something that we will be doing. The previous Caroline ship did pay PRS and then...
Do you intend to do that, do you?
Oh yes, when we get set, yeah. But I think if you ask any musician that's involved with any records we're playing, we'll be very happy to have players.
Are record companies supplying you with records?
Oh yes, they are, yeah. They're being very supportive.
Are you getting paid to play records?
No, we're not, no. It's totally a democratic situation. When the records get on board, it's up to the jocks to play what they like.
Are you worried that the government might take steps to try and close you down?
Well, I don't think they will if we stick to, you know, we don't advertise cigarettes and we don't do anything overtly political, which we don't intend to do. Just play music 24 hours around the clock. I don't think it's doing any harm at all.
A pirate war's now looming with the arrival off the Essex coast of a second pop ship, Radio Laser, expected on air soon.
Right.
A similar contest is being fought in Brighton, the only town in the southeast where BBC and commercial radio meet head-on.
On Monday's programme, you may remember, I was talking to Alan Pocket, the new chairman.
Long-established BBC station Radio Sussex now have commercial competition from Southern Sound. Neither will give precise listening figures, but it's the BBC who claim the lead.
Farmers are very wary of doing that, and it would only normally be if he catches the dog actually chasing the sheep.
It's impossible for me to give you a gross figure, but let me just say that we did some audience research just before Christmas, and to compare us with our commercial competitors in this town, in this area, we had, I suppose, just under twice the audience of Southern Sound in the area in which we are competitors.
So you're quite definitely claiming a bigger audience?
Oh, very much so, yes, very much so.
It cost £750 to set up the BBC's new rival in Brighton, and no return on the investment is expected for 3 years.
There's an invitation you don't get every day. More's the pity. Take me for a night in New York, Elbow, Bones and the Racketeers.
Our competition mainly lies with Radio 2, Radio 1 and Radio Sussex in that order. We haven't done any research yet. We don't know how we're doing. The only way we can tell is by the number of calls we take on a phone-in programme or a phone-in competition. The busyness of reception. I've worked in several radio stations. I've never seen anything like it. It's amazing.
But Radio Sussex say they're getting approximately twice the number of listeners in your reception area.
Well, what can I say? Wonderful. Yeah. So what?
Do you dispute that?
Well, the BBC and ILR have different ways of gauging audiences. We haven't gauged ours yet. I wish the BBC a very good 1984. I think that producing turgid 5-minute interviews on Tibetan skateboarders is not the way that a local radio station should operate.
Wording. Tonight, the single...
Meanwhile, the battle for Kent is still to come. Invictus Sound plan to start broadcasting from a converted warehouse in Canterbury on September the 1st. Northdown Radio have had difficulty raising the cash for their Maidstone-based station. They're short of their £350,000 target. The IBA say they've set no deadline, but can't wait forever. Both are in Caroline's strongest reception area and could face serious competition from the pirate ship.
That illegal broadcasting is stopped.
What do you think they should do?
Well, there must be a management, there must be a company which is actually obtaining revenue from Caroline. That company has got to be traced and has got to be prosecuted.
This is Europe's first and only album station, Radio Caroline.
It's a good opportunity to get out and be part of an alternative radio service. The music we play is slightly more adventurous than what you hear in England now or on the continent, and it's an alternative service presented in an alternative way.
The DJs work a month at a time. The Battle of the Air is now raging on 3 fronts, BBC, IBA and offshore. By the end of the year, South East listeners will have a choice of 15 stations, including programmes from outside the area. And some say that could be too much of a good thing.
Alan